March 10th, we're live streaming here on the Real Kyper at noon show, episode 88. Episode Pat Kane, 1,000 games. And I'm watching like I often do. Hold on.
I'm not making to 1,000 games. Don't worry about that. I'm out sooner than later. I'm not here for 1,000. Trust me.
For all of you that don't recognize that voice because he was not formally introduced, I give you Doug Maclean, man. You're chomping right now, aren't you? Hey, you want in? I didn't even tell anybody that you're waiting.
I got nervous. I got nervous when you said we're going to 1,000 games. I said, like, not a snowball's chance. I'm going to 1,000. What are we at? 100?
Episode 88, my friend, on this March 10th, 2001.
Wow.
Or 2021.
What
Sorry, did I just chop off 20 years? I wish it was 2001. I really do.
I don't. That was my second year in Columbus. I don't want to go through that again.
9 games last night, Mac, and at times we've seen some blowouts, and we had another one last night with Dallas and Chicago. Dallas 6-1, but we also had 6 that were 1-goal games. Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby had a empty netter, but we are starting to see some close games. And you know, if we start off with our thumbnail and the Toronto Maple Leafs, in terms of what we saw last night, you know, just almost in a blink of an eye, we were talking about Leafs winners of 7 of 8, and going into Edmonton last week and not beating the Oilers, Mac, but spanking them, and how this was now going to be a division where the Leafs were going to run away and get that conference final. Like, it was a foregone conclusion last week that the Leafs were going to end up being the team that comes out of the North. And then hold on for a second. They drop 2 games in Vancouver. They come home and they lose to the Winnipeg Jets. And for the first time, we have Sheldon Keefe on a 3-game losing streak. Leaf fans must be losing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, and they did it in Edmonton without Anderson and without Matthews, which was and Edmonton was on a roll and playing well. So that was a great performance in Edmonton, considering what they were up against. But you know what? Vancouver battled them hard. It was even games. It shows you what great goaltending can do. Demko was exceptional in those games and was a difference maker for Vancouver. And then you run into Hellebuck. And that's what the playoffs are like. You know, goaltending goes to another level at playoff time. You know, the battles go to a whole nother level. The physical play goes to a whole nother level. I kind of likened that one last night, you know, not so much Vancouver, but last night to like a pretty exciting pre-playoff match at what? Not the halfway mark of the season yet.
Well, and when we look at the Toronto Maple Leafs record at 27 games and 18 wins, Mac, how many times can we say that they've been out goaltended? And a lot of diehard Leaf fans still want to shit all over Frederik Andersen.
Yeah.
For not being able to get through a round in the playoffs. But how many teams in the North Division have out goaltended the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, you know what? It certainly has happened a lot in the playoffs. And this year, I can't say that Freddie hasn't been on top of his game most nights. Hellebuck was real good. I felt for Freddie a little bit last night, especially the one that the great ballet move by Matthews in the high slot where he stuck his leg out. I mean, like, that takes talent to do that.
That was a
flamingo.
No, that was a Zorba the Greek.
Like, and then knocks it in off his skate. I mean, how bad of luck can Anderson have, and even Matthews, I chuckled last night. people saying, Auston, do not block shots. We don't want you breaking your hand. We don't want you getting hit with the puck. Stay the hell out of the way. So he sticks his foot up. But I mean, he does so many other things so well. You sort of chuckle about it. Hey, Winnipeg battle. I mean, till the last minute and a half, and then they were running around with guys tired on the ice trying to survive. But look, I thought it was a fun pre-playoff style game to watch. We're gonna have some battles in the North before this is over. It's not a runaway.
No, and Matthews still back on his scoring prowl with 2 more last night, and maybe the hat trick if you include the kick-in goal. But Mac, just going back to goaltending here, Hellebuck to me was the difference maker. I didn't mind the game too much from the Toronto perspective. I thought they had some great looks, and Hellebuck gave Winnipeg the type of goaltending that it takes to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we saw it firsthand, pretty much the same kind of team that they had in the bubble and the looks. And go back to the goaltending that Columbus shut down the Leafs. Anybody that gets that type of goaltending can win on any given night. But throughout at least the first 25, 26 games, like I said, you look down that division and nobody could really touch the Leafs goaltending, even behind Anderson. And Hellebuck comes in with 36 of 39, but Saturday night he ended up giving up 4 on 19 shots against Montreal. But, if you get that type of goaltending that we saw from Demko on the weekend, then the Leafs are kind of brought back to earth and maybe more in the mix than we thought.
Well, look, Hellebuck to me has taken a major step here. A couple of years ago, I remember in the Vegas series. I mean, he was stumbling around. He wasn't quite sure. He looks to me like he's a much more focused goaltender. He's taken his game to another level. He's a premier goalie in the NHL. He's a battler in the net. He's technical, very sound. So you look at the Winnipeg Jets and you say, well, their goaltending is as good as any team in the league. I don't know who's got better goaltending than the Winnipeg Jets when Hellebuck's on his game. Wow. Okay,
Carey, Montreal.
And then
if we're gonna end any sentence with when he's on top of his game.
Yeah, Carey Price when he's on top of his game. We haven't seen a whole lot of that lately. Now, you look at their top 6 forwards in Winnipeg, and you say top 6 Toronto, top 6 in Winnipeg. It's pretty close, and I may even give the edge to Winnipeg on that one.
Well, we will be.
So you know what?
It's for a conversation for sure.
Yeah, it is.
When you still look at the style of play that the Toronto Maple Leafs has presented all of us in the North Division, it's tailored towards the regular season and less towards playoff hockey. Okay, that's the one question mark. And you can marvel at all the great goals that we've seen out of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and including last night. And we'll get into Zach Hyman's goal as we move forward here. But those opportunities, as the Leafs found out in the bubble last year, tend to kind of dry up in the playoffs. So therefore, you don't have the world-class skill level of a Matthews and Marner on the other side. And I include, Scheifele. Scheifele's a great hockey player, but he does not have that full range of a Marner or a Matthews when it comes to pure skill level. And then you've got Pierre-Luc Dubois, who again is more tailored, I think, his game to the playoffs. And last night we didn't even see a sniff of how good Pierre-Luc Dubois is as he continues to get his feet wet here with the Winnipeg Jets. Well, but when things dry up and they're tight, Mac, and there's less room for the Marners and the Matthews to work it like there were in the bubble against Columbus, the brighter a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois will shine because of his pure brute strength.
Well, here, what happens. First of all, there's 2 things that happen. The underdog becomes like a predator. it's unbelievable how when you're even a slight underdog at playoff time, and whoever plays the Leafs, in all likelihood in the Canadian division playoffs, is going to be a bit of an underdog. And it's going to be, we're going to make those guys work for every inch of ice. We're going to make Matthews. We're going to make Marner. We're going to make all these guys work for every inch of the ice. Is Winnipeg capable of doing that? I really like their top 6 forwards, and I really like Lowry. So, you move Stastny to the wing, and you put Lowry in there with Dubois. This becomes a really good forward group. But I'm going to tell you this. Chevy is patient. Kevin Cheveldayoff is patient. But he's got to find the defenseman. If he's going to contend with the Toronto Maple Leafs against Matthews, Marner, Hyman and company, Nylander, and Tavares, he needs one more defenseman that can contend and defend against these guys. And that has got to be a priority. Watching last night, Nick, you had to leave that game saying, man, you got to find the right guy to play on this back end to complement Morrissey, Pionk, and DeMello and company. They don't have enough there yet.
Join the club on who needs depth on the blue line, who needs a playoff type of guy to shut down. We're going to mention a couple of names as we continue to move forward here. But I want to get into Zach Hyman a little bit because we saw a pretty nice goal on Zach Hyman. And Bulio was a defenseman that got caught cheating on the wall. But I sent out a tweet last night, and there's some, that suggested that maybe I gave Babcock a shot. And I swear to you, that was not my intention to give Mike Babcock a shot. But I will tell you from playing all these years that when coaches see you a certain way, it's really hard to break out of that. And I think when it comes to Babcock and Hyman, and I know Babcock had held Zach Hyman in high regards. Yeah. Why? Because most often than not, he'd be an automatic to play with an Auston Matthews. But he saw a limited version of what he brought to the table every night, which included a dump and chase. That was it. Trust me when I say this. Mike Babcock did not want Zach Hyman handling the puck in the neutral zone or gaining the blue line with speed or turning up or making lateral passes. No, it was get it in deep and get on the forecheck and create holes for Matthews. And I saw I've been watching it all year. And in the moment Babcock left Mac, this guy said, I can handle the puck more. I don't have to dump and chase all the time. I can expand it. And although it was a horrific defensive blunder that opened it up,
oh my God,
he still had the puck. He still held on to the puck long enough to know that he's got options once he sees them. That Zach Hyman would have made that decision long ago to get that puck in deep with Babcock. That was the only point of me putting out that tweet.
Okay. When I read your tweet, okay, yeah, this is my take on it. I said, oh, that's the first time I've heard from Mike Commodore this year. There he goes again. Commodore giving Babcock a shot. There he goes again. And then I looked and it was Nick Kypreos, Real Kyper, giving it to him. Listen, here's what I liked about Hyman's
You're a
attitude.
coach. You're a general manager. Be honest. You would look at players and go, this is the way you got to play. And if I see you think outside that box, you're in big trouble. Come on. Give me some names of guys that you labeled as dump and chase guys or don't handle the puck. You've had the Mac.
Yeah, I did. Kevin Adams was a prime example.
No, I'll give you an example. Rhett Warner. Okay? You shit all over Rhett Warner, and he called you out on Twitter.
He was one of my favorite guys, okay? This is a 19-year-old that I had on the team, And I thought the world of him. And he was being a smartass. He had to be because, So I call him in my office. I had heard he was out partying. This son of a bitch is 19 years of age and he's partying. So I call him in my office. I said, I'm going to fix this guy. So the minute he walked in my office, the goal was to make Rhett cry.
Oh my God. See, today that would get you today fired.
Oh, I know. And I said, okay, I'm ready to send you to Greensboro, South Carolina. That's where you're going, Rhett. If I hear one more word about you when you're out with this group of players. And he started to sob a little, Okay, we got a
mission accomplished, you big meanie.
And then he has the gall to say, I took his offensive game away. He should have been on the power play. His favorite breakout, he and Joe Sorella had the best break. If they didn't, I had to make them put the glass higher in our defensive zone so they could put the puck off the glass. And he's saying he should have been on the power play. Oh, my God almighty. I know he was just tongue in cheek. But anyway, so was I. I didn't really want to make him cry, but he didn't cry, but he was like, he was ready to,
See, a perfect example of you of having a Mike Babcock attitude towards a Zach Hyman. That's all you can do is dump and chase.
You know what? After a few more years, after watching Rhett, how tough he was, I wouldn't have tried it again. But anyway, look, Hyman, to me, you know what I liked about Hyman? He goes into the game saying, our third line can do more. We're dump and chase. We're going to battle. We're going to grind. But we can also make plays off the cycle. We're big, strong guys that can handle the puck. We can make plays. We can do a lot more as a line. I like it. And I'll tell you what else I like. I like Kerfoot. I don't mean to be hard on, but he can't be your third line center in the playoffs. I'm telling you, he can't be. And all these guys that will get mad at me, and I don't give a shit, but he has got to be somewhere else besides the third line center on this hockey team if you're going to play playoff hockey. And that's what I like about the line. But I'll tell you what else I like about the line. I like that they move Hyman up in the lineup every once in a while too. You see him out there with Tavares.
Oh, listen, they're down a goal in the third period. He's out there with Matthews.
I know. And you move him with Matthews. You move him with the different guys. I really like it. And I think it's great use to get his minutes up to where they have to be and yet be a really solid, hard to play against third line.
Yeah. Well, and maybe last night's a classic example that if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs and you envision playing Winnipeg in the first or second round or however this thing ends up looking like, that do you want to go up against Scheifele, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Adam Lowry?
That's what it's going to be.
With, Matthews, Tavares. Tavares, he's a point producer, Mac, but he ain't running anybody over, and he's not pissing anybody off. So now, after Matthews, you're left with Tavares and Kerfoot.
I'm telling you, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
It's got to be a different setup with Kerfoot off on the wing, and he's a good player. He makes plays, good look, but this is a matchup down the middle that is going to be tough enough to begin with. So I think that, when Dubois hits his stride and Lowry's a horse, and we know Scheifele, this series is going to be about who wins the battle down the middle of the ice and who wins the battle in goal. And it right now, to me, is a toss-up. And especially if Winnipeg get a goalie. Or I should say a defenseman. Get a defenseman.
Yeah. No,
not
they got a goalie. They got a
already. They need a top four defenseman, Nick. Bad. They need a number 4 guy really, really bad for me.
All right, before we get into who they might be targeting or who many teams might be targeting, let's remind everybody that it's Wednesday, hump day. Joe and Jordan are on the sidelines here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Do we want to hit 200 likes again, Jordan, to set up?
Man, we're raising the ante. 300 now.
300 Mac.
For the next one. That's how it goes here.
And that opens up Friday for a full slate of Q&A. Is that
we'll
the
see
deal?
how it goes, right? I mean, every time we'll hit this goal, the next day or maybe the following podcast after that, depending on when you get those questions in, we'll hit it. Last week we had such a great time on Friday, so many good stories and questions. So hoping we get that milestone again.
I'm pretty well storied out.
No. You're just warming up, my friend. Yeah, we're really putting you to work here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. So plenty still to dissect, including a U.S. deal. Gary Bettman.
Okay, are we not going to talk about?
Hold on.
We're not going to talk about defensemen. Or are you going to
Yeah,
go to
we are.
TV?
We are. I'm just telling people what's coming up. We still got to. We're going to talk about Eichel. Like Eichel now. Kruger said that he's out for a week. Could it be longer? Could this guy actually be shut down for the rest of the season? We've got your favorite goalie, Bobrovsky, getting the job done against Columbus. We still got a lot of meat on the bone here, but let's turn it back to the wants and needs of a lot of teams, not just Winnipeg, not just Toronto, but the Boston Bruins are quiet out there, Mac, and we'll get into them as well. But I'm hearing, a guy like, first of all, if you look at the divisions, Mac. And you've got Chicago, who just got beat up pretty bad last night, ahead of you. If you're Columbus, you're not necessarily ready to mail it in, even though you can't string anything together. If you're Columbus, you got to still kind of hold on, hope for a bad week out of Chicago, a good week out of your own team, and think you can get back into this Central.
But Nick, here's the problem. Dallas have 7 games in hand on Columbus, and they're 5 points back now? I mean, that's the problem. I mean, if you look at winning percentages, Columbus is probably 7th out of the 8 teams other than Detroit. So you've got to evaluate, and then you've got to say, okay, what am I going to do with my free agents? I mean, that's always an issue. You're going to keep guys and let them walk for nothing. So to me, Columbus is going to have to start. I mean, I know you'd like to see. I had them making the playoffs. I did. I didn't see Chicago doing this. I had them making it. I've had them being in the 4th spot, but it just hasn't gone. The Dubois distraction. So now all of a sudden, what do they do? Because teams are going to be calling them about the number one available, one of the better available defensive defensemen in the league.
I don't think there's a better shutdown guy that will be available. I think it's a foregone conclusion, Mac, that Columbus is not re-signing David Savard, and they will not let him walk out for nothing because they've been burned so many times in the past. So David Savard will be traded. The question is when and where.
Well, that's, to me, watching the game last night, you'd say Winnipeg have got to take a run at Savard. And then, doing a little sniffing that we do, or what's it called? What do you guys call it? You and Elliot, what are you guys called?
Kicking tires.
No, but you're called something. Insiders.
Oh, the term is your teams kick tires on certain players. Is that what you're saying? Or you're calling yourself now an NHL insider? You are an insider, Real Kyper Noon.
I remember you getting bumped at Sportsnet from your insider role.
No, I didn't want.
No, just a minute. Let me finish. To be a big wheel on Hockey Night in Canada, you were
yes.
And Damian Cox took your place as the insider. So then, I'm sort of moving into the insider role today because this is some research I picked up today. David Savard, Quebec kid, the draft pick of Don Boyd's, I told you.
Yeah.
Dubois lived at his house in Columbus. He's very tight with the family, Dubois and Savard's family. Kids and Dubois, there's a great relationship there. Savard went through the challenges Dubois had with Tortorella and how he was doing and how he was handling it. I mean, I gotta believe that Winnipeg are all over this hard thing.
You're inside. Let me get this straight now. Your inside information is telling our listeners and our followers exclusively that Pierre-Luc Dubois would like very much if David Savard could tuck him in bed and read him a story the night before every game. That would help a lot. That's what that's the information you're giving us.
That's my inside scoop. So, I mean, it's a natural for me. They need a defenseman. They're going to need a shutdown defenseman if they're going to beat the Leafs in the playoffs or in a couple of teams. He's a perfect fit for there. A perfect fit for there. Expansion draft, he's a free agent anyway. Doesn't matter. They can protect their Morseys, their Pionks. I think it's a really good fit. I really do. And there's an opportunity if they want to sign him to keep him. So I think
he'd be a good fit in Edmonton as well. Boston's looking for some experience with the loss of Chara and Torrey Krug, but I'm not sure if it's a right defenseman. But the price is going to be steep, Mac.
Well, the price will be determined also on, Ekholm's another name that's out there that you've got to believe that people are in on Ekholm if Nashville are going to make a move there and if they get knocked out of the box here. Is Ekholm going to be available? So you got Ekholm, but the problem with Ekholm is you got an expansion draft problem, with your protection list of your three defensemen.
Well, you're not trading for Ekholm to watch him walk out the door.
No,
so
you're not. So
he'll
that's
be
a problem.
protected. Pionk will be protected.
Morrissey
will be protected, and that's it.
They'll lose DeMello. Who they like. So, that's the downside of an Ekman acquisition is you got an expansion draft coming up. But look, I see if Winnipeg Jets get a Savard or they get an Ekholm, with Hellebuck and with the people they have there in their forward group, they become a serious contender in the Canadian division along with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I would think that if a team like Edmonton is in the hunt to shore up their issues in their own zone, they might be in a situation where they could sweeten the pot a little bit, because they're also looking for, I would think, Mac, goaltending. Okay. So is there a scenario where David Savard and one of Merzlikins or Korpisalo end up in Edmonton in a package?
Yeah, well, Merzlikins is a couple of years till his deal's up, a year and a half actually till his deal's up.
Next year it's done.
After next year it's done.
And Korpisalo's done after next year, and they're both 26 years of age, UFAs. Yeah. You're not going to keep both of them, Mac.
And so, depending, can Kenny handle it from a cap perspective? I mean, if it's close enough to the playoffs, they can figure that out.
Merzlikins is at $4 million, and I think Korpisalo's just above 2. So it's not. You will be able to make it work, I would think, especially I would think, Mac, between the two of them, although Elvis has had issues health-wise, that's the guy that you keep if you're Columbus. Elvis.
I think they keep Korpisalo ahead of Elvis. I do. But we're
not agreeing much on anything today.
No, and the other team that is going to be in on the Savard thing, as far as I'm concerned, is you've got Edmonton, like you said, Winnipeg, and also I think Montreal will take a run at Savard as well.
You do?
I really do.
Because there wasn't much need for a David Savard 3 or 4 weeks ago in Montreal.
No, but there is right now. I would think that they would consider it.
The other question is, Mac, if you're Edmonton, how long can you wait?
Let me just give you I'll tell you somebody else who's going to be looking for and should be looking for a defenseman if they want to be serious about making the playoffs. is Calgary and Vancouver. They have both got a Hamonic. He's been a little disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, he has been a very poor Chris Tanev for them.
I'll tell you what, they have not been very good on the blue line in Calgary, whether Anderson they need somebody with Giordano. And Anderson's a young guy still who's going to be a good player. I mean, I just don't, this 5-6 pair there has been a disaster for them with Nesterov and whoever. So Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Montreal, 5 teams should be in on Savard and Echo.
I cannot see Calgary making any significant trade. I really can't until the offseason. And what they need has been well documented on our show, Mac. What they need is some major offseason changes that they don't need to be rushed in the final 4 weeks of a trade deadline when April 12th. I think Daryl comes in and tries his best to shore this thing up for a playoff push, whatever that means.
You don't think you don't think that bringing Markstrom in and Tanev in, that they don't feel extreme pressure to make the playoffs from an ownership perspective?
I do. But I've
got to believe there's big time pressure to make.
I think ownership goes back to Brad Treliving and say, weren't those moves to be in a place where you're telling me that we shouldn't be in right now?
100%.
Those were deals to get them into a Final Four, competing a Final Four, not getting into the playoffs.
I agree. But as the GM and your balls are on the line, I might be trying to do something to shore up that back end for Daryl.
Well, the only question is if you can, at what price? Because I think teams will. I don't think it'll be a cheap market. I really don't, and I think teams would rather stand pat than give away underpriced pieces.
The other defenseman who's out there is that we haven't mentioned is there's a lot of chatter that Goligoski is going to be available as well. So is there going to be a demand to try to shore up people's top 4? That is because there's teams, contending teams, and we just named a few of them that have got to shore up their top 4 if they're going to be able to play in the Canadian division alone against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
One last thought on the Central Division. Can Malcolm Subban and Lackinen have been pretty darn good. I mean, that was supposed to be a disaster right from the get-go. Chicago with an MVP type season out of Pat Kane.
1,000 games last night. How great is that?
Yeah, and off the top of the show, I was going to say that you go through your phone every once in a while and you just see these highlights, and they did the top 10 goals from Pat Kane, and every single one is a wow. And like 4 of them have him doing a 360 at the top of the circle and either firing a perfect pass for a tap-in empty netter,
I know,
or a backhand that goes top shelf. Mac, I don't know. It's hard. Chicago's an original 6, but I still don't know if this guy gets the credit he deserves for being one of the best hockey players in the world.
Exactly. And you know what? And doing it without Jonathan Toews. And how good was it to see Toews last night with his message to Kane, congratulating him on his 1,000th game, and good to see Jonathan Toews because we haven't seen him all year, and good to see him, and obviously wishing him well. I loved Hasek's comments to Kane last night too about his father gave him a deal on a car, so Kane's father. But anyway, look, Kane's been terrific, but I mean, Chicago are going to grind it a ways, but I just see the goaltending not being there to get them in. But we'll see. I mean, they're hanging in.
That opens it up for Columbus then. So that's enough on the Central.
Or Dallas.
You want to apologize to Barry Trotz, who coached his 1,700th game, that you doubted him making the playoffs? You want to do that now? Because you really started this thing for Barry Trotz, did you not? In Baltimore and Washington?
Yes, I did, for sure.
Okay,
I even rented him my house.
For those of you that don't know, there's a history that's tied all of us together with the Washington Capitals. Barry Trotz, myself, Doug Maclean, and prior to those 1700s, there was an up-and-coming young coach that wanted real bad to take over behind the bench of the Baltimore Skipjacks, and the rest is history.
He was a scout for the Caps, remember?
Yeah.
Jack Button had him as a scout, and he hung around. So I had two guys hanging around when I was head coach of Baltimore. I had Doug Armstrong counting shots on goal for me in the press box because he was doing sales for the Washington Capitals. He was selling tickets for the Washington Capitals. Yeah. And he used to come down and help me with a little bit with scoring chances in the press box.
That was nice, yeah.
And then we had Barry Trotz hanging around trying to get my job when he was successful.
Very successful.
No, he didn't. No, actually, Robbie Layard got my job, I think, and then Trotzy came in after him. Trotzy came in as Robbie Layard's assistant, I believe. And then we also had Simpson.
Sean Simpson.
Sean Simpson, and he was our radio guy, and he became an expert later on, So we really helped a lot of people.
We're all experts, for God's sakes.
And you know who I hired as our radio guy was Kenny, the guy that does the NBC games.
Kenny Albert.
We hired.
Big star now.
Big star. Oh my God. Kenny Albert.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, you're not getting off on.
So did I get off on getting away from getting ripped for Barry Trotz?
Yeah, and the Islanders, and telling me that the Islanders were going to miss the playoffs in 16-6-4 later. They're at the very top of the East Division.
And you know what? Somebody's going to miss. You say it's going to be Pittsburgh.
Well,
and all of a sudden, if we got guys become geniuses in this business. I became a genius in Florida. Then I became a dummy in Columbus. Guys go from genius to dummies overnight, in this business.
What were you with Sportsnet?
I was a genius compared to who I was working with.
Anyway. Yeah, that's debatable.
But anyway, look, it's somebody really good is going to lose the playoffs.
When we previewed the East, we didn't necessarily have Boston and Philadelphia battling it out for fourth in the division. And yeah, Boston's still been pretty good, Mac. That's how tight it is right now in the East. And yeah, I'm kind of giving it to you a little bit. We don't know how it's going to end up. And the Islanders,
no, we don't. They could miss still.
Would we be shocked if the Islanders found themselves battling a month from now for third, fourth, and fifth in this division? Probably not. And
you know what? I would be watching them last night and watching the way Barzell's playing and some of these guys. Dobson has taken a great step on the
Varlamov
back end.
Was really good last night.
Really good last night. And you know what? I'm telling you, Boston worries me. I mean, they depend so much on the Bergeron line. I mean, they just play the living snot out of them. And, he's playing head games with Corrali. He's playing head games with DeBrusk. And he's fooling with his chemistry, which has always been one of their strengths. I don't like what I'm seeing going on in Boston right now. And they better
Bruce Cassidy doesn't either. You cried like a baby with missing his blanket when Sean Corrali was a healthy scratch, and you brought up Jake DeBrusk's struggles now. 1 goal in 17 games?
Yeah. What about
Bruce Cassidy? Made him a healthy scratch last night, Mac, and it's a hell of a lot easier to still scratch a Sean Corrali than it is a Jake DeBrusk. So I give Cassidy some credit there. It took some.
Yeah. Okay. So he
took some balls.
And now he's got so that's fine. Krejci hasn't got a goal. He hasn't got a goal.
Well, I should have had one last night. Except
he should have had one last night. His first of the year, but he didn't get it, did he?
Hell of a save.
So
save.
if you're gonna be going off, if you want to be credible and you want to sit out the guys because they're not giving you the effort, I haven't seen a whole lot out of Krejci, let me tell you. So is he the next guy to get scratched? And where does that go? A lot of people talking Krejci may go back to Czech after this year. Like the Bruins, to me, right now are they're just hanging there. I'm not sold on them right now. I mean, and you know, Krug is left and Chara's left. They got some work to do. And the one strength the Bruins have always had is the dressing room, the makeup, the chemistry. If you screw that up, look out.
Well, at the beginning of the season, I got to be honest with you. I thought goaltending might be an issue here just based on the controversy that was left last season with Tuukka. But it's not an issue, and it's not an issue to the point where they're actually talking about re-signing these guys.
They've been good.
It would be a short term. The feeling now is that Tuukka, if he's playing, it's going to be Boston only. He's not going anywhere else. Maybe it was for just this year and retire, or maybe it's to sign an extension for another year or two. But it wouldn't take a lot to keep this going if in fact both parties are comfortable with extending. Right. But Mac, it's not an issue. Their goaltending has been solid.
And Nick, think about this. After McAvoy on the back end, okay?
Yeah.
Then you go to Grzelcyk. Then you go to Lauzon, Zaboral, Tenorti.
Yes.
Kevin Miller.
Yeah, and they've been battling some injuries too.
Look, that's, you know, you take Krug and Chara, two of your top four out of there,
yeah, and
you put kids in the lineup. It's not just your forwards that have stumbled a little bit. The Bruins, to me, I mean, look, I'm hoping they're going to get in. And Jack Edwards, if he was listening to this, he might have a stroke right now if he was listening to this.
Well, Carlo, he'll be happy to hear that Carlo.
Carlo's out. They need him back.
I heard he had a pretty good day yesterday.
They need Carlo back so bad.
Yes,
and he's been a real good player for them.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, look, there's some holes there, and now they're messing with chemistry, and we'll see what happens. It's one thing to sit guys out. It's what happens when you sit out guys that have been real important players for you at playoff time. Guys that are shutdown guys that score big goals for you in the playoffs. Corrali scored big goals in the playoffs. He's been a shutdown guy. Jake DeBrusk scored big goals for you in the playoffs. He's been a good, solid guy as a young guy. It's when you bring them back in the lineup.
Yeah, but misery loves company. So if you're right, if you can get a few more, that it kind of spreads it out a little bit. Maybe that's the answer, that they're just going to have to, bite their tongues and just be a pro. Just be a pro about it.
Oh, no, look, I don't think the players, I think it messes with their heads. You know yourself, when you're playing the game, the biggest issue, if your head's messed up, you can't skate. You can't make a play. So, you know what? I think there's a lot goes into this when you're sitting out guys that are important guys on your team, and how you're corresponding with them, and we'll see what happens.
Fourth in the division, and Philly on the outside. Mac, they squeaked one out of the Buffalo Sabres.
Oh my God!
And Carter Hart, Mac. They're waiting for him to kind of show up.
Young guy. He's going to be a hell of a goaltender. A young guy. Their defense is not hitting on all cylinders. I mean, Myers got injured. He hasn't come back as good as he was prior. I mean, Gostisbehere, who they couldn't wait to get rid of, all of a sudden is playing decent for them. So there's some issue. They're not in by a long shot. And there's some pressure.
No.
You know what? Wouldn't Hextall like to squeeze into that 4-hole and have Philly in the 5-hole?
Well, Penn's take another one.
The only problem with Hexy is he's not going to get any credit for it. Brian Burke will get all the credit.
I don't think Hexy cares. I really don't.
I didn't say he did, but the other guy does.
Berkey's more on TV now than he was with Sportsnet.
I love listening to him the other day saying, you know, I love watching hockey. I could watch hockey for 6 hours a night. He was saying on some show I was watching him. You know, I just love it. And I'm thinking, is that not the guy I had to wake up between periods to get him to go on TV? Like, I'd look over and he'd be sound asleep, for God's sake. I'd have to nudge Berkey. We got to go on.
He didn't say that he could watch him without a nap or two.
Oh, my God. I listen to him. I'm thinking, is that the same guy we used to have to nudge? And then we'd take a couple pictures. I mean, he'd be snoring. And we'd feel bad about waking him up to put him on TV.
Speaking of which... All right, there, Mr.
We're just having some fun. We're having some fun.
All right, Rip Van Winkle. Is that his name?
That's what insiders do.
Hey, how the heck are you, my friend? Speaking of which, going to stay up tonight to watch a Vancouver-Montreal 11 p.m. Eastern puck drop. Not 10, not 10:30. But 11 p.m. I want you watching that game from start to finish. That is your assignment from the Real Kyper at Noon show.
Yeah, and I will have watched it by the time we do the show on Friday.
Okay,
There's
in the comments,
not a chance I'm even going to see the national anthem tonight.
I want everybody in the comments right now to finish this sentence for me, okay? The best way to keep Doug Maclean awake for the Toronto or for the Montreal-Vancouver game is, and you fill in the blank. All right? Want me to go first?
Yes.
The best way to keep Doug Maclean up all night to watch the Vancouver-Montreal game at 11 p.m. Eastern is a shock collar that I control. All right?
Look, I love to watch hockey all night long. I'm Berkey. I love to watch hockey. But I need the odd nap in between. That's all.
I get to zap it when you nod off. I'll start it slow, though. I won't have it at level 10, okay? But I will give you small little kind of vibrations just to kind of, you know, during a commercial break when you kind of nod off. Maybe I'll get Berkey to call you during commercials to make sure you're up watching this game.
Berkey called me every 2 weeks since I left Sportsnet. I haven't heard from him since he got the Pittsburgh job once.
Well, why? Why would he?
Well, he came down to visit me last year. We went to dinner.
No,
exactly.
He doesn't need you.
I think he's scared of when asking for a job or something.
That's definitely it. Other big news, Mac, is word out. We heard yesterday, I think Chris Johnson floated out yesterday afternoon that a highly anticipated U.S. contract that Gary Bettman's been negotiating for maybe the last year and a half. Who knows how early he started, but 7 years, ESPN back in the mix. We believe NBC will continue their relationship with the U.S. national television rights. But everything that I've heard today, Mac, suggests that they're coming off their $200 million deal, $2 billion over 10 years, $200 million a year, and they've more than doubled that. So in a pandemic, I don't know, it sounds okay to me when you're talking about clearly a league that does not have the cachet of NFL, NBA, or Major League Baseball.
There's only one thing that came to mind when I saw the deal announced by Chris last night. What do you think that was?
Can you find a job?
Does Pierre Maguire go to ESPN or does he stay with the NBC? That was my only thought that entered my head.
No, it was not.
It was nice the only
try.
Thought.
Nice try.
I didn't care about the money. I was just wondering if Pierre would he go to ESPN, you know?
Well, you know Pierre pretty well. You could call him up. Maybe you even want to negotiate his deal for him.
Anyway, yeah, look, it's a great deal. We haven't seen the dollars yet. You've sort of indicated that they might be double what they are now.
Yeah.
That's a great accomplishment in this. We've heard ESPN were going to come back, and we all thought it would be an NBC ESPN combination. Then we saw ESPN's Sportsnet or NBCSN is shutting down. Does NBC the main NBC channel stay involved with ESPN that's owned by ABC? How do they work that out? That will be an interesting situation, but I think it's a great job by Bettman to pull this off. There's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of rumors. I think it's great to see ESPN back in the NHL. I really do.
Well, yeah, that was my era. ESPN always did an amazing job of, I think, promoting when we were involved. And
so would Barry Melrose and Pierre Maguire be on the same broadcast?
Do you want them on the same broadcast?
I don't.
No,
I would be happy to Barry. I'd be happy to have Barry on there.
I'm sure it's good for Barry. It's good for Pierre. It's good for the industry in general to bring somebody back in and committed, Mac.
No, it's great. I'm just joking. I never want to see anybody lose their job, but no. I'm just thinking. I think it's a good deal. It's a good job by Bettman. Yeah. He takes all kinds of criticism. Good job by him. Good job by the league.
Live streaming seems to be where it's at right now, and I think part of the deal is Disney Plus. But I heard it's not even an exclusive rights to the streaming, which is good because if they can kind of piecemeal it a little bit, we know up here in Canada, Mac, Gary went with the decision to freeze out TSN and CBC moving forward with the Rogers historic deal. But this one will come into play much like we've seen in the other major leagues where they just kind of piece it off individually. We'll see if anyone else comes into play. There's talk of maybe Fox getting involved with their streaming rights as well. So who knows how much more meat on the bone there is for Gary to pick off on this. But in a pandemic, Mac, I'm with you. It's a good sign that he's doubled it, if not gone further on what he could maximize his return.
And look, we know that both the owners and the players are getting hurt in this year with no fans, and that even makes it even more important that they come with a good TV deal for both sides.
So we have some info coming through from Andrew Marchand on Twitter 29 minutes ago. If you guys want to hear some of the details,
yeah, we'd love it.
Cool. So ABC/ESPN will have 4 of the next 7 Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah.
ABC/ESPN will have 1 conference final each year. 25 regular season games on ABC or ESPN. ESPN Plus will stream more than 1,100 games. ESPN Plus /Hulu will exclusively stream 75 national games. And then also he has another tweet saying the price, Disney does this bundle with ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu. That price is going up as well. So that's just going to create more revenue going forward.
Yeah.
So NBC is totally out here?
No.
In this information, that's what they're saying. I don't know if they.
No, he's just talking exclusively of what it brings ESPN and Disney.
Right.
But and NBC's still right there.
Yeah. Okay.
And they'll focus again on the streaming part because we know what that means now in today's day and age.
That's great. That's exciting. Thanks for that, Jordan.
For sure.
So you can end up with a job in all of this.
Who?
Me, I'm very comfortable here on the Real Kyper at Noon show, but you, on the other hand, could end up with you and Barry Melrose.
I would be thrilled if you got on with them and did it, and I would just take this over myself. I don't think I'd bring anybody else on with me. Me and Jordan. I'd put Jordan and Joe on the air more, and I'd just run with it myself.
Could be good.
I'd watch. I would watch for sure.
But you know what? You would have to send me down to Florida, all your fancy studio stuff in behind you there. But keep your book and your puck and your sticks there. Just the rest of the stuff.
All right. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And you
Anyway,
could,
look, it's exciting.
you start
time.
saying nice things about Bobrovsky as well, who played a very solid game against your Columbus Blue Jackets. Is he ready? Is he ready to take over again and be the man?
Well, I mean, look, he still has a lot to prove. I mean, he's never been any good at playoff time. So we'll see if, this team looks like they can compete for a playoff spot. Quenneville is really happy with his team. Got to give some full marks to Bill Zito. He's done a good job in there. He's made some good acquisitions. Barkov and company have taken a big step. And Bobrovsky was god awful to start the year. He's found his game now. Can he do it at playoff time? He's never, ever been able to. That will be the big test. But they've got a good backup there now who's battling them for another number one job in Drieger. So, who knows?
All right. We did mention earlier on the show, sands in the hourglass, and so are the days of the Buffalo Sabres. Sounds like a soap opera there a little bit, doesn't it? We hear now Jack Eichel is gone for at least a week, as Ralph Kruger said. And the fear is it could be serious. It could shut him down. The question is, does he want to be shut down? Would you want to come back and play this season?
Kevin Adams said that he's never asked to be traded, that they're in communication a lot.
Is that enough though? Is that enough? Or, if you're in Kevin Adams' shoes, Mac, is it just enough to say that? Or would you say, hey, Jack, can you kind of throw us a bone here and go out and reassure people that when you signed for $10 million a year on a max deal, that your intentions were to stay with the program until we won a Stanley Cup? Can you do that for me?
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see that. I mean, if I'm Jack Eichel and that there's some conversation going on internally with the Rangers that would like to have him in LA, maybe would like to have him, and a couple of teams like that. Why would you say you're going to stay in Buffalo? Why would you say you're going to stay there? There's not a snowball's chance. If I was Jack Eichel, I would say I'm staying in Buffalo till somebody in Buffalo showed me a lot more than what they're showing me. Now, he has to take some of the blame for this. He has to take some of the blame.
Yeah.
He can't be let off the hook 100% in this scenario. He has not, in my opinion, at $10 million a year, I'm sorry, he hasn't done enough for me. He's had spurts. He's had good years, off years.
Okay, but
he hasn't done enough.
We're talking about a guy, generally, Mac, it's not supposed to work out this way where we throw all of this. We throw tens of millions of dollars to 21-year-olds to lead. And if they're not ready, if they're not mature, if they're not, he was over his head, Mac. Just over his head.
I mean, he and his agency wanted the money.
Yes.
That comes with it.
Can you blame him though?
No, I don't blame him a bit.
When everybody else is getting it.
I don't blame him a bit. But when you get it, you have to take some heat when things don't go well. You have to take some heat.
I'm a big believer that whether you're a corporation, whatever the case is, you got to put people in positions to succeed.
I agree.
I don't think Buffalo's done that from day one. Okay.
I mean, you could compare it to the McDavid scenario in Edmonton, but it hasn't even been comparable. I mean, how much help have they given McDavid in Edmonton? I guess more, but I mean, they've got Darlene as a number 1 pick overall. They got Reinhart there. They bring in, I mean, you know, they bring in Eric Stahl for leadership. They bring in, you know, what's the kid there that, you know, this Taylor Hall. I mean, you know, they for whatever reason, it has fallen flat in its face, and it is ugly. And I mean, I'm not throwing him under the bus. I'm just saying he has to take some of the heat too.
Yeah.
It's not just Kevin Adams and Ralph Kruger and the Pagulas.
It's still shaping up to be an interesting offseason, because that's where I think if in fact there is a trade looming for Jack Eichel, it's off season.
Yeah, I agree. And what are they going to do, you know, with their hockey operations department? I mean, what are they going to try to I mean, how many times have they revamped the Buffalo Bills? And finally, it seems like they found a way to get it going. I know the quarterback was a big part of it, but there was also some good front office moves there as well.
You know, you mentioned some teams that might be in the search for a third line centerman, and you mentioned Toronto, and we'll see what happens with Kyle Turris. I think he's out now. COVID protocol. Eric Stahl, Mac.
Eric Stahl will be moved somewhere. I wouldn't pick up Turris for the playoffs myself. I mean, his game to me has dropped off too much. Stahl's a guy that certainly would be an interesting guy for a team down the stretch. You know, 6'3", the character
6'4".
I would take. You know,
wouldn't put him in a position where you have to score, but big and strong enough to clog up the middle come playoff time. I think he'd be a good asset.
I think he would be too, and I think there'll be teams knocking on the door. And I know where I think he and Kevin. I think I saw that he and Kevin have had a discussion about, you know, Eric would like to have a chance to go to a contender at this stage in his career. I hope it happens.
All right, you good? You happy?
I'm great.
What's that hat you're wearing today? I can't see it off my monitor off the side here.
This is Cabot Cliffs from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. People say, well, the green doesn't go with the blue, but there is green. If you look at the lobster, there's a blue lobster on this hat. And
who's telling you it doesn't go? Where are you getting this information from?
You know why it's a blue why their logo is a blue lobster at Cabot Cliffs Golf Course? You know why it's a blue lobster?
No, you're going to tell us.
Because blue lobsters are unbelievably hard to find. They're unique. They're, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very few and far between. And that's what Cabot Cliffs Golf Course is. It's unique. Yeah. It's like the blue lobster. That's where it came from. I thought the fans out there would like to know that little tidbit of useless information.
It's like when you give it's like when you make a very good point on this show. They're just far and few.
Very unique.
And who's telling you it doesn't match? Who's giving you that GQ info?
John Shannon has mentioned that to me on a couple of occasions. That it doesn't match. Have you seen the way this guy dresses?
Yes, I was about to say that. If John Shannon is your fashion guru, you might as well just show up naked.
As I mentioned before, he takes his clothing styles from Teddy Roosevelt.
Doug, have you thought about wearing sunglasses on the podcast? I see that on John Shannon's podcast quite often.
Where's your transitions?
I haven't.
Where are the transitions?
Oh, that used to happen to me in Sportsnet. The lights would come on. All of a sudden, my goddamn glasses would go dark, and Deb Berman would panic, our clothing person.
It would be like you're ready to jump into a Porsche, your Porsche. All right. Well, listen, I hope that hat helps you at least get a discount on some of the lodges there.
Not a chance for that. But I mean, look, it's such a great place to go. I'm working it. Can't you tell?
Listen, if you're gonna keep shooting 96, they're not gonna let you on that course.
No, I didn't have an. I looked. Let me just check here before we go, just for the fans to know this. I'm just looking up my USGA GIN card, and right now in my last 21 rounds, my average is 91.7. Not bad.
Okay.
Last 21 rounds, 91.7.
Yeah. For the category of 75 and older, I think that's terrific.
I didn't say what tees they show I'm hitting from.
Jordan, you got any advice for Mac to stay awake tonight for Vancouver?
Have you heard of
Montreal?
cocaine? Is that a thing that's in? No, just kidding. To be honest, I'm asleep too by 11 o'clock. I'm 29 and I'm snoozing by then, man. I'm getting old.
Hey.
Why would I stay up and watch the Montreal Canadiens in Vancouver when I can read Eric Engel's description the next morning? Why would I do that?
And feel like you've played.
It feels like when I read Eric, I feel like I've been on the bench. There.
Smart. Hey, that way you go to bed at 9 p.m. You're going to read Eric. You might as well go to bed at 9 p.m. Doug Maclean, everybody on the Real Kyper.
I've been a smart ass today, and I owe some people apologies today.
Yes, who are they? Would you like to start?
I'd have to start with Berkey and McGuire and Kippy, because I called him what's his name? Guy that rips Babcock all the time.
Oh yeah, Mike Commodore. Listen.
Okay, thanks.
That's why you got Twitter. You spend the next few hours just sending out apologies on Twitter, okay? Doug Maclean from Florida, everybody. God, I still want his life down there. 80 degrees, golfing every day. Has an RV. Convertibles. God, what did I do wrong? That's okay. We'll keep him as a friend for now. Should charge him a friendship fee at the very least. But he gets to hang out here with all of us and all of you on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Thanks for watching. Again, first-time watchers, subscribe to linemovement.com, and we'll keep you posted on all the latest. Hit your like button one more time for Doug Maclean, and we'll see you Friday. Take care, everybody.